So this is like the second of three kind of demonic roles he had. He had Possession and The Omen 3, and then Event Horizon. So for a guy who didn't kind of like his horror, tends to play kind of personifications of evil pretty well, I think.
You're listening to Second Cut. This is the podcast where we talk about topics in film theory, criticism, and history, because we like doing it. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who has a title card that says The Creature.
I'm Sam. I'm the one who's a real bad egg.
We picked a much more fun movie to take a thing from.
Yeah. I mean, when I heard the news, I thought, well, Jurassic Park is the go-to. I've already seen it this year, so I thought, what other Sam Neill film can I watch that'll cheer me up? And up to a lot of people, it is that.
Yeah, I mean, from the title and stuff, we're talking about Sam Neill, who unfortunately passed in Sydney, Australia on July 13th, 2026. He was 78 years old. And according to his family, he had previously been battling cancer. He was cancer-free when he died of pneumonia. So,
it is tragic that, I think, because he announced his cancer-free diagnosis last year, and then we thought, oh, great, that means he's out of the woods for a while. We might see him and hanging around for a bit, quite a few more performances, but no, wasn't to be. But, obviously a very versatile actor, kind of tried pretty much everything over the years. I've sort of cover. He ended up doing a lot of horror films, which I think kind of bemused him. But he was a lot of straight dramas as well, lots of other genre stuff. And by all accounts, a decent guy. And I don't know if you followed him on Instagram in the last few years, but he had a second life as a farmer as well. And he was forever just putting up pictures, posing with his pigs and his other farm animals. And he had a nice habit of naming his animals after his co-stars and films he'd been in. So he had like Imogen Poots the pig and Helen Bonham Carter the chicken and a few others.
Nice. I really kind of think of him as like a more successful Ray Wise. That's who he really reminds me of. And I had never seen the not David Lynch film that he was in that we'll talk about later. But I knew him first from Jurassic Park, and that's probably really the only thing I saw him in that I thought about him being in it before we did Event Horizon and In the Mouth of Madness on this show.
Yeah, I mean, that was the film that kind of turned him into a household name, really. He wasn't really a superstar before that. He'd been a successful actor. He'd been working, for many years in New Zealand, especially in Australia, and then did a few smaller indie kind of Hollywood films. But, that kind of all changed with Jurassic Park.
Didn't he do television, too?
And he auditioned for James Bond. When I think around the same time as Timothy Dalton. I think it was for the Living Daylights. I think his audition tape is out there. He would have been. I can't really see him in the role. Funny enough, I'm sure he would have done a good job with it, but I've struggled to visualize it. If I'm honest, he was quite successful in Australia. In films like Dead Calm. I think he worked basically with a lot of kind of upcoming kind of Australian directors who then made the transition to Hollywood just like he did. He was born in Northern Ireland, but moved to New Zealand when he was a child. So he always considered himself Kiwi. He didn't really consider himself British in any way. Though he played a fair few Brits, over the years in various costume dramas and things like that. So things like The Piano.
Yeah, which came out the same year as Jurassic Park.
Yeah, but, I mean, what a double bill that would be.
I don't know. I think that it's clear to me that he is a good performer. I am not sure what a James Bond would have looked like. But yeah, I didn't know that he was also British. I learned that. I just knew he was from New Zealand. I'd really only heard his accent in the Wilderpeople, and like, all of the different, Australian movies that he did and stuff like that. I've never had exposure to them. So, pretty much all of my exposure to him is through American and European horror films.
Yeah, I mean, he was very proud of his New Zealand kind of his adopted New Zealand homeland. He down to the fact that in Event Horizon, all the astronauts have their the little patches on their arms, of the various national flags. Because his character is supposed to be a New Zealander, just like he is, he actually. He had a hand in designing a new kind of a future flag for New Zealand, because he thought a couple of thousand years in the future they're probably not still going to be using the British flag, as part of their as part of their cultural identity. They'll have thrown off those kind of colour shackles by then. So it's basically I think the flag it's how the New Zealand flag is now, but instead of the Union Jack being in the top corner, it's the Maori flag instead, I think. So yeah, it's kind of just little creative touches like that,
Yeah. And did you read his memoir?
I didn't know. I kept meaning to get around to it. I mean, I've barely I finished Tim Curry's memoir in the past few weeks, but it's on the to read list. But now I've not got around to it yet. But I'm sure it's interesting. I'm sure he's very self-deprecating and modest, even though obviously he's so important to so many kind of film fans.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to go ahead and get into these movies, or do you have something else?
No, just I think it's just an interesting kind of career path, really. That's starts just years and years of relative anonymity, just being a jobbing actor and a character actor, and ends up in a load of horror films, even though you're not really a fan of horror films. You just find them generally confusing, and then just obviously Spielberg turns up and turns you into a megastar, and then you end your career and with Taika Waititi and Marvel. So it's quite an arc, which I think he's. I'm sure he was pleased with it, and he had a lot of fun, through his life, through his career.
It's interesting you bring up like that he was such a good character actor, because he looks like Sebastian Stan whenever he's young. So he was a handsome guy back in his youth, but I guess he was in his 40s by the time Jurassic Park, or late 30s. I don't know.
He was early 40s, I'd say, because there was a good 20-year gap between him and Laura Dern, wasn't there? And I think she was in her early 20s, so probably early 40s, I think. But by the way, just one thing about Dr. Alan Grant, so the role most identified with him, he's completely different to the character in Michael Crichton's novel. He's quite curmudgeonly and I think I think he's not really a curmudgeon, but he's kind of he's got more kind of grit to him. He's a bit more of a kind of a classic kind of man's man kind of character, really. Whereas Spielberg, being Spielberg, kind of brought this arc with him, where he basically starts off as a curmudgeon who hates kids and grows to love them, grows to be their protector, just through trials and tribulations, So I think it's an improvement on the character, if anything. Just giving him a bit more heart and a bit more humanity.
Yeah, so I get what I'm picturing now is he's a great white hunter from Africa, except also an archaeologist.
Yeah. I think he's described as like a tall, broad, balding man, basically. But but he throws himself into the, defending the group, and he's definitely like a man of action. I think more so than Alan Grant has his moments, doesn't he? But I think he's more of a thinker, more than he is a full-on action star, really.
Yeah, agreed. But before he was a somewhat full-on action star, he was in a very dark horror film, which I always get Andrzej Żuławski. God, I'm going to hate saying that over and over. I always get him confused with the other Polish guy whose movies I need to watch. But I'm glad I finally got a start on one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, do you mean the guy who did the French Polish guy, the guy who did the Three Colors trilogy, or you think of someone else?
I think someone older. Hold on,
because who I'm thinking of is Krzysztof Kieslowski.
Okay, yeah, no, not him. Andrzej Wajda or whatever.
Oh, right.
Wajda, yeah. Yeah, then there's also Pawlikowski did what movie was that? Cold War?
Yes. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, the more modern generation, yeah. Yeah, I'm not
Roman Polanski's Polish.
Yeah. I'm not really big into my kind of Polish directors in general. Probably need to kind of fix that at some points. But yeah, this not being very familiar with Polish cinema, this does feel very Polish, doesn't it? Well, very Cold War grim. Polish.
Yeah. Whenever you learn about the USSR films, beyond the 20s guys, it's all about the socialist realism. And this has kind of the aesthetic of that in terms of it's very drab. It's taking place in West Germany, war-torn city. And then it's such a weird creative film where you know how The Shining, you could just tell how composed it is. This is obviously composed to achieve all of the effects it's achieving visually, but it still feels very free moving and free spirited because of the camera movement. And I don't know, it's a very interesting experience watching it. I think the one from him I've really wanted to see is on the Silver Globe because of the production issues with that. But man, I'm glad I finally watched this. This is, it's rough, but it's a really good movie.
It's stunning, but it's not one you can put yourself through very often. I mean, I was saying before we came on, starts the stream, I'd seen this about 15, 18 months ago, and I wasn't quite ready to go through it again, so I'm going to be working off my memory of this, but it's still pretty lodged in there. I think it kind of sears itself onto your consciousness after the first time. And it's that interesting contrast between, as you say, the social realist kind of aesthetic with these really surreal kind of asides and kind of complete breakdown in kind of logic, as it goes on. It's kind of the film is losing it as kind of the characters are losing it, basically, and the whole reality itself seems to be breaking down around it. You can't really track, what's going on from A to B. You just got to go with it and just accept, I'm as lost as characters are now.
I feel like David Lynch didn't spend a lot of his spare time watching movies like this, but it feels very much like a movie he would have made. Żuławski was also working well before Lynch was. He was making movies back in what was it, the 50s? Not 50s, the 60s or 70s for sure. He released. Let me pull him back up here. His first big feature was his second one called The Devil, and it was banned in communist Poland. And he ran off to France. He had a lot of issues with censorship and the USSR, and he actually made Possession in Exile as well, although it was also banned from places because it is a very dark and violent film, but it kind of follows a husband and wife who the wife is trying to leave the husband and he doesn't want her to. He wants them to be a family. And they end up creating finding a double of themselves and also murdering people. And it's a very, very weird. It's not really a plot movie. It's just a series of things happening, people being violent and angry and having breakdowns, just one scene after another.
Yeah, pretty much,
But, I don't want to focus on this too much because it isn't necessarily important to reading the film, but the director was going through a separation with his own wife whenever he conceived the film. And apparently the coming home to Bob. Yeah, the child's name is Bob in this movie. It's pretty funny. It's like a French guy and a British guy, or a French lady and a British guy, and they have a kid named Bob.
Yeah,
but...
I'm guessing that was the dad's idea, because I think Bob coming out like in a French voice just doesn't sound right, does it?
No, it doesn't. I don't know. That's another actually Twin Peaks thing, Bob.
Yes.
Incidentally. But yeah, the image of coming home to Bob covered in jam, all over his face and shirt. Apparently that happened to Żuławski. And so it's about the actual emotions of going through this kind of thing. Hopefully he didn't beat his spouse. I didn't see anything about that. I think it was more just externalizing internal emotions and feelings that are difficult to communicate.
Yeah. I mean, often, real world experiences obviously inform your art, and it's through your art that allows you to process and understand, what you've been through, come to terms with it. I mean, famously, Rob Reiner was going to have Harry and Sally, stay apart at the end of his classic rom-com, but then he met his wife and rewrote the ending to be more positive because he was in love again. So so you've got to wonder, these kind of films where it's like particularly like the worst time in your life, and like an artist is kind of processing it through their latest work, and it's also it's like therapy through your work, isn't it?
Yeah, especially whenever you're feeling things you definitely should not express, like the intense level of rage that Sam Neill is able to express. And I will eventually get to him. The two actors in this are incredible. But, going into it, I expected it to be like a demon movie. That's what I was thinking. It's called Possession. But really, it's more about possessing the spouse, like from both ends. Kind of molding them into what you want and desire in someone that you can't control.
Yeah, I mean, there is a kind of a supernatural, demonic element to this, but it's very much presented where it could just be none of that's actually happening, and it's just in their heads, So
yeah, well, it has like they act possessed, right? Whenever they're really angry, there's a lot of the body language and visual film language of possession, but the supernatural entity is the creature, as the titles tell us, which is a guy wearing like a tentacle costume and probably at different times like some kind of rubber creature or something like that. It's very like about halfway-ish maybe through the movie, maybe before, I was going, isn't there supposed to be a creature in this movie? And then it starts showing up.
Yeah, but it's usually kind of in the dark or in the semi-dark and covered in goo and stuff, so you can't really make it out properly. I mean, which I think works for the film. I don't think you want to see it properly and have it answered one way or another, whether it's there or whether it's just this couple losing it with each other and with their kind of conception of reality.
Yeah, and by the way, full spoilers are going to be set here if you care. About watching Possession, but like the opening of it, it's pretty intense. I was watching it and I was like, oh my god, I'm only 16 minutes into this movie. First they're breaking up, but we can't really, they don't tell us why. Then we find out that she's with a guy named Heinrich, and her name's Anna, by the way. Sam Neill's name is Mark, and the actress is Isabelle Adjani.
Adjani, yes.
Adjani, yeah. And she is fantastic. Apparently she won at Cannes that year for 2 different movies. For like best actress or whatever.
I mean, obviously we'll get on to Sam Neill, but if there's one reason to see this film, really, it's Isabelle Adjani. And everyone obviously talks about, the famous scene in the subway. You know, her breakdown, where she just goes kind of completely feral, basically. Has
it's like The Shining, but they both get to be Jack.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Because how long is that sequence? Is it like 5-6 minutes, something like that? It's or maybe it's not that long, but it feels at least that long, you know.
I mean, I think every scene in this movie is about that long. Like it's a very drawn out, atmospheric film.
Yeah, but famously, she basically drove herself to complete exhaustion filming that, because I think they do several takes of it, and every time she goes into it, you know, she's got fluids leaking from her, and she's rolling around on the floor and shrieking, and her eyes are bulging, and you're never quite sure exactly what's going on to her, because again, it's not just someone having an episode, you know, when they're on their own. It's definitely something else going on, something's bursting forth from her as well, you know. It's but I like how they keep it very much up to interpretation, and nothing's really answered.
There's also I think the toughest part for me to watch is the scene where, so he goes to Heinrich's place, who's, you know, her boyfriend or whatever, and Sam Neill gets beat up by him. But then he goes home and he beats her. And it's just so uncomfortable to watch. And it turns out Sam Neill wrote in his memoir that he was pushed past his own personal comfort by the director. And also apparently the actress was also I don't know in what capacity, but was also fine with it at least. And he was like, yeah, no, that was didn't like that. I don't remember his exact quote, but he was not a fan of having to punch a fellow actress.
Well, no, I think because he's such a nice guy, and I think that fight scene, I think he was trying to, you know, not throw himself fully into it, because he was just terrified of just accidentally hurting her, and I think the director kept trying to push him again and again. But I do believe Isabelle Adjani was the one who said, "Look, for this, just so we can get it, we can get the scene done with. Hit me for real this time," you know.
So he shuts up is kind of what I was imagining.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I mean, it must be. Obviously, they've talked about it before. You know, Kubrick and other filmmakers, what they put their actors through. But yeah, it's. I mean, you can't deny it produced the result. But yeah, it must not have been a happy time on set.
And that's the tough part for me, is because it's evocative. I feel something from watching that scene. It's it's disgust, it's horror, it's fear. It's it's this kind of violence for me that is disturbing in movies. It's not the monster in Insidious being behind the guy's head. You know, this just it shocks me to my core. And whenever she is slashing her own throat with the knife, I'm just thinking oh, that's a cool effect. I can kind of think about it that way. But yeah, there are some brutal moments in this scene, in this film, some gross out stuff. But Sam Neill is incredible.
Yeah, and because it's so the complete opposite of who he was as a person, and who most of his characters he played over the years are. It's a bit of a novelty to see him in this mode, but obviously, understandably, it was very distressing for him to actually do this, and kind of made him think, I never want to do anything like this again. You go to this dark place, because I think it just terrified him as it kind of terrifies the viewer. Because he's got to be the character's got to be up there in terms of abusive spouses in cinema. He's got to be up there with the most monstrous, I think.
Yeah, because it's ultimately about a really abusive guy and a lady trying to get away from him, and he is so intense in every scene. But even just that scene where he's in the hotel drinking alone. And, you know, you find yourself asking, oh, my God, how long has he been here? He plays the detachment, and he plays the rage, and he plays, putting on a mask whenever he's talking to people.
Yeah.
But, he apparently, I missed the part where it says he plays a spy. I just gathered it from, reading about the movie. But, it doesn't feel relevant.
No, I got he was doing some vaguely espionage stuff, wandering around the city and meeting with people and stuff. But and then it's again, it's just another thing that's there, but doesn't really add that much to the plot. Just kind of interesting. Whereas that would be like the main thrust of another film, but they just threw it in there just as an added extra.
Well, I kept expecting it to matter, but like he hires a PI to follow her. Like the people he's going to meet with are related to like, where's my wife? Yeah. He's also kind of like Harrison Ford in that movie. But so he can hunt her down and beat her up and keep his fam. But of course, Adjani's also playing her double, who is a green-eyed, different colored hair version. And whenever he's with her, it's like the idealized version of his wife. And, that's really nice for both of them to get to hang out with Bob. She does have to tell him that Bob is troubled by night terrors and that Bob is not doing well. But, she is a much better partner for him than Anna, he believes. Her name's Helen. But, that creature that we've been discussing, it turns out she's actually been murdering people. There are a lot of murders. Well, they're cool, but like also they just kind of blur together for me. A lot of people get murdered. Sam Neill has to murder somebody. And I think he murders Heinrich, and then he also watches Heinrich's mom OD, which that feels like a USSR thing. Just watching an old lady overdose on a bed. But then it turns out that the creature that she has been building is like some kind of hentai Frankenstein monster that becomes Sam Neill. And after her and Sam Neill are like killed by the police or whatever, he assumes Sam Neill's identity, and he's like super evil, cool. He's cool, Sam Neill. He should have like a little goatee so that we know he's anti Sam Neill, who goes to live with Helen.
Evil one, yeah. I mean, of course, this is like the he would go on to play adult Damien Thorne, wouldn't he, in the Omen 3?
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So this is like the second of three kind of demonic roles he had. He had Possession and the Omen 3, and then Event Horizon. So for a guy who didn't kind of like his horror, he tends to play kind of personifications of evil pretty well, I think.
Yeah, and also ultimately the film plays like kind of an indictment of the male figure, because for whatever Anna is doing, it's ultimately a response to like her husband not letting her have agency. Yeah.
And it's a very kind of Germanic kind of folklore kind of idea, the idea of doppelgangers, isn't it? And just seeing someone, your mirror image, but then something being slightly off about them, and then they somehow influence your own life, and who's the real one, who belongs, in that life, and who needs to be destroyed ultimately. But this is almost like they're both the doppelgangers. They're just representing a different aspects of the married couple's kind of personalities. They're all part of one whole, but kind of presented to us in kind of a different body and different form.
And also Anna and Bob, they both have issues with like with Mark, that's his name, with Mark leaving on his, I guess that's where being a spy matters. He's always on like extended leave. Yeah. So and then I don't know how I forgot this. Bob drowns himself at the end. So yeah, the last kind of real shocking image in this movie is Bob lying face down in the bathtub. But Helen and Mark have their idealized versions of themselves, so it's fine.
Yeah, a lot of sudden child deaths in the films we've been watching recently for this podcast. A couple of weeks after the Trojan
including
women.
the Odyssey.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, if you could do disturbing movies, watch Possession. If you can't, if like spousal abuse, that kind of violence, if you can't watch that, don't do this movie. But I did learn because I was talking to my wife about it.
It's going to be very. It's good. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, yeah, I was talking to my wife about it, and I said, I think you'd like this movie if they didn't make it in 1981, if it was like, 20 years later. And I just Googled if there was a remake, and yeah, there's one coming out with Paul Dano and Margaret Qualley, so
yeah,
she'll
and
finally see
them. I can definitely see them both in those roles, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Paul Dano's very much in his kind of weird little guy's kind of phase of his career, isn't he? So.
The one thing I didn't see was who was making it, and I do wish it was like Yorgos or, I don't know, somebody weird.
Yeah, because
you got to have a weirdo make this.
Is it one of those projects they've kind of greenlit, but there's not like a script yet, or they've just got cast in place? I think. Oh no, Parker Finn. What did Parker Finn do? Oh, he did Smile. Yeah, it's a Smile director doing this. Okay, mate, that might work.
I would like to see the Smile director make something that isn't a, Blumhouse franchise horror film.
Yeah.
I don't hate those movies. Like, I think that they have fundamentals that are really good to them. They just, they're based around something stupid. It's a dumb idea at its core.
Yeah, and I think he's obviously a very technically kind of gifted director. Even if maybe kind of everything else around his films isn't that interesting, but maybe that's all you need for this. You just need someone very competent craftsman just to make sure it all looks good and sounds good, and then just leave the actors to blow you away, basically.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think you can just redo what Żuławski does visually. I don't want shot for shot remake. I mean, just kind of make it your own thing. But yeah, but like I like the cinematography of that Kremlin movie that Paul Dano was in. So I mean, just anybody that uses wide angle lenses, that aspect of this I like a lot. I like those shots that are on angles that like divide the two in the frame. There's that one when they're in the cafe breaking up, and there's like a mirror behind both of them, and the camera moves like so precisely to not be shown. And like, man, there's just some really interesting and creative camera work.
Yeah, I mean, the mirror shot must have taken like a whole day to set up just to get that just right.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you have nothing else on this, we could talk about something more fun.
Yeah, I mean, before we barrel into it, obviously after this, yes, as we mentioned, Sam Neill, played the Antichrist, and then did a few Hollywood films. Made it big with Jurassic Park. Appeared in films like Hunt for the Red October, and what else did he do? Kind of as the decade wore on, but lots of Hollywood stuff in general. But eventually he'd kind of come back to New Zealand and kind of team up with probably the biggest New Zealand director of the 21st century, if we're not counting Peter Jackson, because I suppose we've got to count Peter Jackson, really. So yeah,
maybe the funniest
New Zealand director. Okay, definitely the funniest. Yeah, because I suppose when I think of big New Zealand directors, I suppose you can't discount Peter Jackson, Jane Campion, so if we discounted those two, like the ones who'd be on like the Mount Rushmore of New Zealand kind of film directors, Taika Waititi, I think is the next run down. But yeah, he obviously started off doing kind of low budget comedies and spoofs, and ended up doing a few films in New Zealand with his friends before getting offers from Hollywood, and this point, Marvel hadn't come calling yet, but Thor was on his horizon. But yeah, he ended up doing a little film, which was it 10 years ago? think it was 10
Yeah.
10 years ago in September, called Hunt for the Wilderpeople, which was his biggest production in New Zealand, and also a record breaker in New Zealand in terms of like box office of like a domestically made film. So it was a real kind of revelation in its time. By the way, I try to say this. I've got to say, I think 2016 is one of my favourite kind of recent years in film. I thought it was such a good year. I think like 2011 and then 2016, 2017 were all, and maybe 2018 as well at Push. They're all pretty great. Lots of really interesting kind of indie projects and kind of upcoming filmmakers, finally, been noticed. So that's great.
And good big movies in 16 and 17.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So Hunt for the Wilderpeople is a story of Ricky Baker, played by Julian Dennison, who's a foster kid, and he's basically been passed around from foster home to foster home, and he's been threatened with juvie if he doesn't get his act together, because he's seen as too troublesome and too much of a burden on all the families he's been put with so far. So he's put with another foster family, made of the kindly Bella, played by Rima Chiwiata, and a grouchy husband, Heck, played by Sam Neill, in, I would argue, his finest role of his career, because he does such a good and lovable grouch, but he's got a real kind of heart to it, and obviously, as he expects, the more time they spend together, the more his guard is let down, and the more they come to really care for each other as time goes on. So a sudden tragedy causes Heck and Ricky to go on the run into the wilderness, and with the social services and the police in hot pursuit. And that's making it sound a lot more like a big kind of American police action film than it actually is. For most of it, it's just one social worker, Paula Hall, leave no child behind. And one inept cop, chasing these out. They do get some more kind of people join it later on, but generally it's the two of them going through the New Zealand bush trying to survive. Heck is a bushman, so he's got all the survival skills, and Ricky's just a fat kid who thinks he's a gangster, so he's got no survival skills.
Yeah. They have a dog named Tupac and one named Zag.
Yes. Yeah, and Ricky at one point suggests that he should get another dog and call it Zig, and Heck's like, why? There's a running goal with Heck basically being he's got all the practical skills and the life kind of experience and everything, but he's not educated, he can't read, he doesn't really get kind of jokes and sarcasm and cultural references. He's a bit of like a Grizzly Adams kind of character.
So it's a country bumpkin, but in New Zealand.
Basically, yeah. Taika Waititi gets a very entertaining cameo as a priest, delivering this awful, very surreal kind of funeral eulogy, which apparently is based on a real funeral that Taika was present at, and the priest just went off on these really bizarre tangents. What I do love about his stuff, it's very New Zealand in its tone. It's very self-deprecating and kind of mundane to the point of it being really funny. Just people just coming out with some really strange kind of lines and observations. Ricky stumbles across like a Maori family of father and daughter at one point when he's on the run, and they're just really kind of they're nice and they're grounded, but they're a bit weird as well. He keeps trying to offer Ricky sausages, just every break in the conversation. Would you like a sausage? And they come across these hunters. They keep encountering it in the bush, and they're just completely inept and kind of terrified of Heck and Ricky, a few times drops Heck into it by just coming out with some stuff that he doesn't really think before he speaks, and obviously the implications are terrible, but Heck very much realises what he's implying has been going on between them when it very much hasn't. I mean, yeah, this makes this film work really. And obviously, yeah, Taika Waititi's a really funny writer, and he's a really good director working with actors and younger performances as well, as we see in his earlier film Boy and in his later film Jojo Rabbit. You know, he's a bit like Spielberg. He's just one of these guys who's just real good at getting an earnest and honest and not forced performance out of a young actor. You know, and he definitely gets that from Julian Dennison. Yeah. But it's
too similar to Jojo Rabbit's too similar to this. I can't remember the order I first watched them in, but I remember Jojo Rabbit better than this one, and I was like, okay, it's the same dynamic, really, just not with Hitler.
It's still a kid on an adventure, but except this in New Zealand bush and with an old bushman, and rather than in Nazi Germany with your imaginary friend Adolf Hitler. So they're quite similar in tone, aren't they? And they both have their darker moments, but I mean, you know, towards the end, actually, Ricky is becoming a danger to both of them, and Heck is really, you know, trying to say, you know, this isn't a joke anymore. You know, I'm going to prison. If they get me, I'm going to prison. You know, you're going to be sent to another foster home or to juvie. You know, it dawns on them.
Now, Sam, one thing that I've kind of mixed up while I was watching it is he going to prison just for running away? I know he has a record, but is it for running away with him? Is it because they actually do think he is a molesterer? What is his crime that he's arrested for at the end?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it helps that he's got kind of a previous record, you know, because he was committed for manslaughter, wasn't he, into this time. And then met Bella and kind of settled down in a happy life. But because there's that line about when, so spoiler alert, Bella dies. You know, she's a lovely foster mum. She really cares for Ricky.
Very suddenly.
Yeah, she really cares for Ricky, and she's bringing him around. You know, kind of making him properly part of the family. Even bringing Heck, you know, kind of out of his shell a bit. You know, to actually talk to them both. But yeah, she dies very suddenly while hanging out her washing. By the look, kind of Rick just comes around the corner and just sees Heck crying over her body, and he says, kind of, you can't just stay with me. You know, they don't trust me, and that is a real thing in the foster care system. I don't think single men are generally seen as good, kind of safe options for, you know, to raise children. Basically, I mean, whereas, you know, single women
kidnap you into the bush.
You know? But I think it's basically as kind of the news, tabloid news, kind of catch on to the story. They say, this old man running off into the woods with this kid. You know, something must be going on there, and people do see them, you know, on their travels. Yeah, kind of. I think the story just spirals out of their control, and you realise this. I know how this looks. You know, it's not going to go my way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, and also, I forgot that he tries to fake his own death.
Yes. Yeah. Dressing up like it's like some bags of animal feed or something in his clothes, and putting like a paper plates with a face drawn on it. And the pretty dim cop, you know, kind of is full bite at first until the social worker kind of holds up the paper plate and says, "Does this look like a child's head to you?" I mean, Rachel House as Paula, the social worker. She's a scene stealer, and she was in Thor Ragnarok as well. She's one of Taika Waititi's regulars, but she just got so many good lines in this, you know, kind of. You know, her catchphrase, Paula Hall, leave no child behind.
Really great dry delivery from her. Sam Neill gets to be a bit goofier. She's really the straight man in this movie.
But that New Zealand twang just makes every line can just raise a smile. Really, it's just so good. Just seem like they're caught, like they found Ricky, but like there's like this pathetic like gap, you know, like a little ravine with like a stream running through it, and they can't. It's a little bit steep for them to go down and go get him, so they're just shouting across this gap. And she goes somewhat. She goes, "I'm the Terminator. You're Sarah Connor," and Sarah Connor in the first movie before she could do chin ups. which I just love the way he puts stuff like. And my favourite kind of line of them all is they see the wanted poster with them both on, and Ricky's reading out, and he goes Hector. I can't remember his full name now, but Hector, whatever his full name is Caucasian. And Ricky's responsible. Well, they got that wrong for a start, because you're clearly white. But just sprinkle like little kind of moments like that, and you get people like Paul House, and you get Rachel House as Paula in this, and then you get a mad Rhys Darby as a conspiracy theorist who lives in the woods.
You should have said that you're the one who is not Psycho Sam.
Yes, I should have.
That is the character's name.
For some reason, I keep forgetting
in this
Sam,
episode about Sam Neill.
Yes, he is Psycho Sam. Yeah. I mean, it's basically a road movie, and a chase movie, but it's about just the time they're kind of spending together, and get to know each other and growing to kind of understand each other very gradually, through trials and tribulations. I mean, Heck's got all the skills, but early on he trips up and breaks his foot, so he's obviously out of action for a while. So Ricky's kind of got to kind of try and keep them alive, though he's still kind of mostly reliant on Heck just actually still being able to, catch eels from the stream and gather herbs together and. All that stuff.
Sam, I know it's not a kids movie, but what I was thinking is that this is like if Badlands was turned into a kids movie. Yeah. That's kind of what it reminds me of. I don't
think it's not a kids movie. It's not a kids movie. It's not a kids movie. It's kind of.
I would say it's a teen appropriate movie for sure.
Where's my DVD? It is. So just trying to see what the certificate is.
It's Wes Anderson's.
It's a 12.
Badlands.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few kind of few moments of strong language, but nothing egregious. You know?
There's the molester stuff. I don't think I'd show a child movies with where children threaten to say you molested them.
No, that's true. I mean, this I was thinking watching this again last week. It must have been a challenge because obviously, again, it's another film like the Lord of the Rings films that does the New Zealand landscape justice, and it really makes it a feature, and just as they're winding the way through this wilderness, all these different kind of landscapes, and it must have been a challenge, I think, to find some New Zealand locations that weren't used in Lord of the Rings. I mean, there's even a point in the film where they're hiding below a log and kind of look up, and Rick is looking up and he's trying to mouth, "It's just like Lord of the Rings," which of course Heck doesn't understand. But it's mostly kind of light-hearted and full of jokes and very 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 kind of heartwarming and heartfelt and all other descriptors with heart in it as well. But it does kind of all come crashing down to reality by the end, because, as we say, Sam Heck kind of does realise that there's no getting out of this for him. He's going to again serve his time for a kid's kind of messing about with it too much. Essentially, if they'd have
first he gets shot in like the butt by him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, if it was given up a bit earlier, he might have been let off with a warning. But no, he's got to go to prison again. And Ricky again manages to kind of reconnect with him when he does come out. When he's in like bail accommodation, basically. He's not quite released yet, but he's on his way out. Of course, it's nice for Heck this time in prison he learned to read and compose haikus and stuff like that. So
I forgot about the haikus. Those are fun.
Got something out of it, yeah. I remember learning how to do those in school. I think I did a few myself at the time. Actually, I can do them now. I always forget. I have to look up the number of syllables you meant to have per line.
Yeah, it's 575. Yeah, he has to explain it to to Bella.
Yeah.
And also, one of my favorite parts is Bella has her little synthesizer. And she's playing like a happy birthday song or just a welcome to the family.
Baker.
And he starts singing along and like Julian Dennison's really good. I'm glad he got the Deadpool movie after this. He's great in that too. He's a really fun actor.
Yeah. I mean, he did quite a bit of stuff. Yeah, he got Deadpool. He got Godzilla vs Kong. He was in the How to Train Your Dragon remake. Yeah, so he's getting work. And
he seems very fish legs. That was a good call.
It was absolutely, yeah. So I think this is a really good kind of late kind of career move for Sam Neill. I believe when they were first muted, because I think Taika Waititi had written like a version of this script years and years ago. It was meant to be about one of his first films, but he could never quite get it off the ground and get the budget, to make it in New Zealand. And then when he started to get a bit bigger, they basically wanted to relocate it to the States and cast like big stars in it. But he basically, that's I think he was considering it, but I believe it was Sam Neill who actually advised him, says, no, this is very much New Zealand story, and it should be made here and I should be in it. So which is nice, It's nice that they kind of kept it kind of homegrown and kind of authentic, where they could. And I hope that's kind of because it was just this, and then he did Rams. Sam Neill did Rams a few years later, which is a remake of an Icelandic film about a couple of warring farmers, sheep farmers, which again I think that was filmed and based in Australia, I think. But he didn't do many films kind of in the Antipodean kind of area, in the latter years of his life, unfortunately. But he was always very proud of that. And I hope that Taika Waititi isn't just lost to Hollywood forever now. I hope he does go back and do some of these smaller films occasionally, But maybe it's too much to hope for that. Maybe he's just going to be doing big studio films from now on. He's got a sci-fi film later this year, and he's still trying to get his take on Akira off the ground. So.
Yeah, I didn't know he had this sci-fi movie coming out, but Jenna Ortega, Amy Adams, Steve Buscemi, and Natasha Lyonne are apparently in it.
Yeah.
I'll watch it at least.
Yeah. I mean, I think big actors are kind of queuing up to work with them, and including Sam Neill, obviously. Yeah, this was their first collaboration, but they stuck together after this. Sam Neill was in both of Taika's Thor films as well, playing an Asgardian actor, playing really kind of really hamming it up, playing Odin.
Yeah.
And again, he reprises it again in the next in Thor: Love and Thunder, which has the actors, but not actually in a play this time, just on their day off, just hanging around and talking. But between funny little roles like that.
But between these two movies and then Jurassic Park, like you get all three accents that Sam Neill could do really well. I bet his Australian's pretty good. His British, I watched Wilderpeople first, and I was like, okay, that's kind of, I guess, his baseline real accent. Approximately, maybe he's hamming it up a little bit to be a country guy, but I started watching Possession. I was like, oh, he's he's British in this movie. Oh,
yeah.
It was a very interesting experience.
He had a few films where obviously he was making them in Australia, playing his characters as Australian, and fair few Hollywood films. Obviously, returning as Alan Grant in his last few years. I think what's the other one he did? Oh, I thought of another really good example of one with accents, and I can't remember what it was now. What else has he done? Move on. It might come to me.
No, did it come?
Oh yeah, I've got So Peaky Blinders, which I've never seen, but he's in the first season of that, playing a Northern Irish cop. So again, properly going back to his roots. So he even got to do his Bourne accent, which apparently he lost very quickly on his move to New Zealand, because he was just being ripped to hell for it, by the kids at school. So
Yeah, I saw he was like 7 or whatever when he moved, and I was like, wow, like that accent development's so interesting.
But think about like Mel Gibson. You know, he was born in the States, then moved to Australia again when he was young, and then moved back to the States. You know, so he sort of his accents vary between American and Australian all his life. Equally, you know, Russell Crowe, I think born in New Zealand, but grew up and still lives in Australia. So his accent's definitely more Australian than it's ever been Kiwi. So I think he does kind of identify with both countries. So, yeah. I mean, New Zealand and New Zealand Kiwi accents and Australian accents are often mixed up by people who don't kind of. I'd say especially by Americans. I think Brits were a bit better at kind of distinguishing them. Just like we struggle to distinguish with a lot of American and Canadian accents. So, you know, I think it's a similar kind of thing, really. You know, unless you're in particular
I think for
areas of either country with particularly broad accents. And
Taika Waititi makes it really easy. Like, if you watch his movie and then you hear like an Australian person talk after, there's a lot more R's, like ner, and then in New Zealand, like
it's more kind of rolling.
It's very more nasally.
Yeah. I'd say you've always got to pitch up when you do New Zealand. I think.
Yes, definitely. Oh, but yeah, that's Sam Neill, very talented actor. I mean, he could have made more movies if he'd wanted. People are working into their very old age.
Yeah, but to be honest, maybe he wouldn't have done. I mean, I think he was quite happy just with his life on his farm, much like Francis Ford Coppola. He had a winery as well, so he was a farmer and a vineyard owner. And I think he was just happy, in that kind of semi-retirement, just enjoying life kind of in the countryside and occasionally doing a film when it really interests him. But he didn't need to do it for money anymore, so he just only when the project really intrigues him, did he do it. So yeah, maybe he could have been done with his career, but obviously leaves a really good body of work to enjoy. And throughout your life, you got your Jurassic Parks, to enjoy as a child, and then all the disturbing horror stuff to enjoy as you grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just before I leave off, obviously it's been a pretty crappy year in terms of like deaths in Hollywood. Really, just like last year was. Really, it's not been a good couple of years for people who die kind of when you expect them to. Like when they're getting really old, or people who die a bit before the time. But then people who die tragically too soon. I mean, Sam Neill, like I say, was free of cancer, but tragically. Struck down, anyway, just by mortality, But this just yesterday or the day before, we've had another tragic death, which Kaylee Hottle, who was in again Julian Dennison connection. She was in Godzilla vs Kong and Godzilla New Empire. She plays, the deaf child, communicates with Kong in that, and she died in a car accident the other day at just the age of 18. So, it's sad times at the minute, for film fans. But
yeah, and I learned she went to like the. I learned she went to the Texas School of the Deaf, so. Her parents were they were both hard of hearing, and like it that's the kind of like whenever we think about what does representation look like, I mean there's not always a huge push for disabilities in like live action stuff.
Representation matters, and especially in like big blockbusters like Godzilla vs Kong, just getting just getting the actors' kind of performance in that kind of genre, and just be seen by the biggest audience possible, and be making it part of their character, part of their narrative, and it's a great help.
Yeah, but that was really sad to read, even though I only knew her from the Godzilla movies.
Yeah. I'm not sure if she's done that much. Obviously, but yeah, that's what she was known for.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a sad episode. But yeah, we'll be back next week with something else. Till then, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and at the Second Cut Pod Substack, where my review of the Odyssey, written review of the Odyssey, should be up imminently. By the time this episode goes up, anyway, it'll be there for you to peruse, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I accidentally plugged it, and it's not up on the episode that just came out today. So, let's see. That's my bad. You can find Kieran at KJudgmental, even though he doesn't want to be found. Okay, and you can find me at Jacob Film Guy. I reviewed the Odyssey on our YouTube channel because Kieran has moved and Sam went on a nice little vacation. He had a nice time. So I was going to do I really liked Evil Dead Burn a lot, and I was going to do an episode about that director, but now we can save that for another time because I was blown away by the Odyssey and had to record a review. So you probably already watched that. If you didn't, go watch that. Go read Sam's. You can find us at Second Cut Pod, email secondcutpod@gmail.com. And that is it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.